Our new Minister for Education, Minister McHugh, congratulations on your elevation to full Cabinet. I know you've been around the Cabinet table for a while, but it's nice to be there, great honour, so well done. And I'll now proceed to the particular committee stage. And just to remind members, this is committee stage. We have had second stage already, and we're not dealing with anything other than committee stage today. There are 3 amendments and there are 3 sections and a title. So we'll commence with section 1. There's an amendment, number 1, in the name of Senators Colette, Kelleher and Éireann. Now 1 to 3 inclusive are related and may be discussed together by agreement. Is that agreed? Agreed. Now, Senator Kelleher, go ahead.
I would like to welcome you.
Move the amendment? You're moving it? You're moving the amendment?
Pardon, I'm moving the amendment. Yeah. And I would like to welcome Minister Joe McHugh, the newly appointed Minister for Education. Welcome you to your first week in the job, for first week in school, as it were. And I also wish to acknowledge the work of your predecessor, Richard Bruton, whose support was really very evident in the progressing of the Traveller Culture and History and Education Bill and its intent. And I am moving the amendment to propose to capitalise the T in Traveller in this section and throughout the bill. And this is an important adjustment to a simple drafting error, a necessary and important clarification. As you know, Minister, on the 1st of March 2017, former Taoiseach Enda Kenny TD said in Éireann, "I now wish to formally recognise travellers as a distinct ethnic group within the Irish nation." In that same speech, An Taoiseach acknowledged that our traveller community is an integral part of our society for over 1,000 years, with its own distinct identity, a people within a people. And we have many visitors from different members of the traveller community here today because this is a significant event following up on traveller ethnicity recognition. The same sentiment was echoed by Micheál Martin TD, leader of Fianna Fáil, during the debate on traveller recognition on the 1st of March in Éireann. And he said, "As recent research and work has shown, travellers have been a distinct part of our history as long as written records exist." So since March 2017, travellers have been formally recognised by the state as a distinct ethnic group, Ireland's only Indigenous ethnic group. So the inclusion of traveller culture and history within the curriculum of Irish primary and post-primary schools is a logical and necessary continuation of the state's historic recognition of traveller ethnicity. Indeed, it is very surprising that traveller culture and history is not already taught, and taught well, in our schools. And listening to the recent ill-informed, ignorant, insulting, ill-advised, and I would say close enough to incitement remarks of a presidential candidate about the recognition of traveller ethnicity, mercifully, as I understand, polling at 1 or 2% in the presidential election, these dangerous remarks are yet another argument and reason for traveller culture and history to be taught, and taught well, in our schools, for all of us, including those who would be president or head of state for the whole country and everyone in it. I know what side of history I want to be on. I know that I prefer to align with and not attack the least powerful and most marginalised of people, and not side with the rich and the millionaires. And I understand there's been further comments this afternoon by the presidential candidate, Peter Casey, and I would seriously wish him to consider withdrawing from the race. Getting back to the bill, Dr Carol Kitching, an educationalist and Director of Equality at UCC, said at an Oireachtas briefing held on the bill last week. He said it is difficult to overstate the historic importance of the proposed amendments to the Education Act that the Traveller Culture and History and Education Bill will bring to all our children in all our schools. He also spoke of the impact of this bill on young travellers at school, with such worryingly low levels of education completement and attainment. And the numbers are really striking. 13% of secondary school completion among young female travellers, as opposed to almost 70% in the general population. Only 167 people completing third-level education ever, out of a population of 40,000 people. Dr Kitching said that in the school curriculum, traveller young people rarely see or hear narratives about their lives that are not paternalistic. I would go further and say that travellers rarely see or hear narratives that are not negative, inaccurate or even downright prejudiced, as the recent remarks of a presidential candidate confirm. Hannah McGinley, a traveller, a mother, a teacher and a PhD candidate at NUIG, also speaking at the Oireachtas briefing on the bill last week, spoke about the fact that traveller children's literacy and numeracy are behind those of their settled peers. She said, "We can't improve their maths and literacy if we don't improve their overall well-being and sense of self." She added that if we don't instil a sense of pride in them, then everything else is a waste of time. The mainstreaming of traveller culture and history in the curriculum, taught well of course, is key to this. Dr Kitching cited relevant international precedents in the curricula development in New Zealand, Australia, in Ontario, Canada, successful examples of where the state has mandated the teaching of Indigenous contributions, histories, cultures and perspectives across the primary and secondary curricula. He concluded his presentation by underlining his support for this bill. He said, "We need to deeply recognise what travellers have to teach and contribute to the settled majority in society, because the story of travellers in school is engaging the story of Ireland." And Dr David Edwards, a historian in UCC, also speaking at last week's Oireachtas briefing on this bill, emphasised this point too. He said that travellers were amongst the oldest of the Irish, the last vestiges of an old Gaelic tribal society, adding that during the Middle Ages, the Irish were a semi-nomadic pastoral people. This way of life was knocked sideways by the imposition of direct English rule, with its insistence on a sedentary life in the 16th and 17th centuries. The vast majority of the Irish population today is an acknowledgement of the success of the English plantation project, he said. Travellers resisted, stayed on the margins and managed to retain a semblance of the old way of life. In Dr Edwards' view, it would be quite easy to incorporate the story of travellers into the history of Ireland because, he said, it is in many ways the story of Ireland. I'm sure Dr Edwards would be available to give a history lesson to the presidential candidate and maybe give him some background of which he ill-advisedly speaks. So I move my amendment as presented to capitalise the T in traveller in the title and throughout this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kelleher. Senator Éireann.
Thank you, Kelleher. I obviously support the amendment to capitalise the T in traveller. I want to really, point out that we need to capitalise travellers in general in terms of their knowledge, their understanding and their contribution. And I don't mean capitalise in terms of capitalise.
Want to respond to some of the things the Minister said?
Yeah, well, I'll let you in, Senator Kelleher. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister, and I'm delighted that we're making your first day an interesting one. And I'm a fellow community worker in the past and youth worker, so we have things in common already. And you raised, and I think they were raised sort of perhaps obliquely by Senator Kelleher, concerns raised about any potential politicisation of the curriculum suggested by this bill. And I took those points that were made previously, both outside of the House, and I've received advice from James Kane, a barrister at law, who helped with the drafting of the bill. And I suppose just to put those on the record, because you did say that you may be putting in amendments, but I thought it might be useful for me to share those with you. Firstly, the bill does not envisage that the Minister would prescribe the syllabus in a vacuum. Under the bill as currently drafted, the Minister would take advice from any entities that you feel necessary. This includes parent organisations and indeed the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, and you've already your predecessor already asked them to do some work on this, and I've already met with them, as you said, so that's already in train. So the position envisaged by the bill as currently drafted is very clearly not that the Minister fills the curriculum with your own personal agenda or personal beliefs, because obviously none of us would wish that to happen. So what I'm suggesting here through this bill doesn't contravene that convention. Secondly, the Minister's role in this process does not render the process politicised, rather it ensures that there is a person who is responsible and accountable for the content of the syllabus of recognised schools. Thirdly, this bill is fully consistent with the existing state of affairs where the Minister prescribes the content of the syllabus of recognised schools. In that regard, as things stand currently in the Education Act 1998, the following provisions show that the role of the NCCA is advisory in nature only, and that it is the Minister who is responsible for prescribing the syllabus. This is in section 41.1 of the Education Act 1998. The object of the Council shall be to advise the Minister on matters relating to A, the curriculum for early childhood education, establishing primary and post-primary schools, Section 41(2) of the 1998 Act, which provides it shall be a function of the Council from time to time to review the curriculum or any part of the curriculum for schools and syllabuses taught and to advise the Minister. Section 31(1) of the 1998 Act provides that the Minister may from time to time, following such consultation with patrons of schools, national associations of parents, recognised school management organisations and recognised trade unions and staff associations representing teachers as the Minister considers appropriate, prescribe the curriculum for recognised schools, namely A, the subjects to be offered in recognised schools and the syllabus of each subject. Section 33 of the 1998 Act contains an express power for the Minister to consult with the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment and such other persons or bodies as the Minister considers appropriate on any matters relating to the curriculum. Fourthly, as it appears from the provisions just mentioned, any amendment to this bill which proposes that the Minister does not prescribe the curriculum is in fact a deviation from the present position set out in the Education Act 1998. It doesn't appear to be justifiable to have one approach for present curriculum, which the Minister does prescribe in consultation with other bodies, and a different approach for traveller, culture and history. And lastly, if the Minister is not to prescribe the syllabus, the question arises as to who is responsible for prescribing the content. The bill would be toothless without stipulating that a particular person or entity is responsible for making this change to the syllabus. In the case that there is any argument about floodgates, whereby it is feared that other people or groups might want to initiate bills to reflect further changes to the syllabus to reflect their own culture and history, a number of points can be made. Firstly, travellers are an ethnic minority and therefore specific considerations arise from this. It should also be noted that there are numerous European recommendations in existence dealing specifically with traveller education. Any future bill would have to be considered and debated on its merits in the normal way, and it may well be found that the curriculum is lacking in other areas and requiring amendment. If that turns out to be the case, so be it. That is no reason to hold back on the present bill. It is inconsistent with the provisions of Article 42(1) and 42(2) of the Constitution of the Oireachtas to foreclose on or to express hostility towards parental choice with respect to the education that their children receive. The Oireachtas must, if it is to act consistently with Article 42, remain open to the voice of parents in articulating important changes to the curriculum. Accordingly, the present bill should not be attacked on the basis of a floodgate argument. So I hope that addresses some of the concerns that you raised and might arise to amendment. And as I said, that advice and the barrister, I quote, is available to meet with you and your officials while we wait for the National Council for Curriculum Authorities approach, which I have been promised will be delivered by the end of March. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Senator Kelleher. Minister, do you want to come back in, or are you okay?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, and that's helpful as well, and I'd like to thank the Senator for that. And look, you can be assured of our insistence that we're going to be working with you on this, and obviously we're waiting in a vacuum at the moment. 4 months. 4 months will take us to the end of March. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Minister. Okay, so Amendment 1 in the name of Senator Kelleher and Éireann. You've moved it already. You're pressing it? Yeah. And then putting it that the amendment made, is that agreed? Agreed. Section 1, that Section 1 is amended to stand part of the bill, is that agreed?
Agreed.
Section 2, Amendment number 2 in the name of Senator Kelleher and Éireann has already been discussed at 1. Are you moving it? Yeah. And is that agreed?
Agreed.
That amendment made in then Section 2 is amended to stand part of the bill, is that agreed? Agreed. Section 3, the Section 3 stand part of the bill, is that agreed? Agreed. Title, Amendment number 3 in the name of Senator Kelleher and Éireann has already been discussed at 1. You're moving it? Yeah. Is that the amendment made, is that agreed? Agreed. Now, that this be the title to the bill, an act to provide for the inclusion of traveller culture and history in the curriculum taught by recognised schools in the state, and for that purpose to amend the Education Act 1998 and to provide for related matters. Is the title agreed? Agreed. And the bill has been reported with amendment, and when is it proposed to make the next stage?
Tomorrow.
Next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay, thank you. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, that concludes everything. Senator Kelleher, go on. Do you want to say something?
Well, I was going to say that at a report stage, I may wish to introduce an amendment around a time frame to this bill, because I am concerned, and I won't give a big speech on it, you'll be glad to hear. There has been a significant policy time lags in relation to government commitments in relation to the introduction of traveller culture and history. So I may introduce that at report stage.
Okay. That concludes item 3. And I'm just going to ask the acting leader when it's posted again.
10:30 tomorrow.
10:30 tomorrow morning. Is that agreed? Agreed. So Seanad stands adjourned until 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you all very much.